My dear friends, less than an hour before services, Temple elected its 52nd president since 1854 at our congregation's 166th annual meeting. Adhering to physical distancing, our extraordinary outgoing president, Mark Fogelman, handed the gavel virtually to another exceptional leader, Lori Meskind, and a remarkable group of officers and temple trustees, the stewards and guardians of this rare and unique synagogue. Temple is one of 22 founding congregations in the Reform movement in North America, and 166 years later is the last remaining large synagogue in all of the Deep South. And while the gavel was passed virtually from number 51 to number 52, this historic Shabbat, this annual wonder, brings to mind a trip to Israel I led with past presidents number 44, 47, and 48, Mark Halperin, Nancy Robinson, Paula Jacobson, and over 30 other members of the Temple family. Our amazing Israeli guide from Arza named Muki made Aliyah from South Africa, and he shared an unforgettable true story with which I will close this sermon about Neil Armstrong visiting Israel for the first time. With the exception of the state of Israel, a Jewish state which lives in Jewish time, in America and everywhere else, the synagogue is the barometer of Jewish life. As the synagogue goes, so goes the future of Jewish life in America for one simple reason. No matter what our priorities in Jewish life may be, the principles and ideals they embrace are all inspired by the synagogue. If we value Jewish federations or immigrant aid societies like HIAS or JDC, that support is grounded in the priority of tzedakah, the religious basis for giving, which the synagogue teaches. If we promote JCCs for their services to children and adults, that derives from the Torah's emphasis on amcha, peoplehood, and community, which the synagogue also teaches. If our preference is for Jewish care for the elderly, that commitment stems from the Torah's reverence for elders and kibud av va'em, honoring parents, which hangs over the ark behind me, inscribed on the Ten Commandments. If serving families or counseling ranks high on our agenda for the support and guidance they provide, all that derives from the synagogue and the Torah's emphasis on mishpacha, family unity, and shalom bayit, peace in the home, pillar principles in the synagogue. Even Jewish hospitals, which Memphis never had to erect like other cities because Jewish doctors were never barred from practicing in hospitals here. But even Jewish medical facilities around the country are an extension of pikuach nefesh, the saving of human life, which supersedes all other mitzvahs and which, to be sure again, the synagogue teaches. Every other institution in Jewish life needs Jews or uses Jews, but only the synagogue creates Jews. On this 166th anniversary of Tennessee's oldest synagogue, I am thrilled to share that our synagogue has never created more Jews. Not only those born Jewish, but 17 who are becoming Jewish following years of Jewish learning, one-on-one study with an assigned rabbi, and an embracing class brilliantly led by Judy Bierman and Sally Rosenberg. This means 17 more gifted Jewish minds, Jewish hearts, Jewish souls, not only for Temple Israel, but for the Jewish people everywhere. The astounding increase of Jews by choice in American Judaism only heightens the focus on the synagogue where Jewish lives are born, deepened, and grow. Moreover, adults who choose Judaism as their path help the rest of us who were born Jewish by chance appreciate better the religious beliefs we take for granted or never knew. If synagogue affiliation has been an inescapable prerequisite to a healthy and dynamic Jewish future through the centuries, then this congregation is living proof of it. Whatever we may hope to achieve in Temple's 167th year ahead depends on what all of us are willing to do and build together, and we invite everyone to join us in that endeavor. It simply cannot ever be the same without all of you, no matter where you live or who you are. Everyone counts in what we have created here, a genuinely warm, large synagogue in a very small Jewish community, but a temple that still makes a major difference beyond these walls and far beyond the Jewish community's walls to all of Memphis. That's because this temple has always believed in the prophetic imperative to make the world more human as Jews, not to make the world more Jewish just for us. For 166 years, this temple formed by immigrants has always been dedicated to the promise and potential of tomorrow, no matter how challenging the present may be. Our synagogue is a vibrant response to every age of history and every stage of life, grounded in equality of the sexes, social justice, and how to sing unto God through our prayers, our lyrics, our convictions. It's hard to see yourself in history when you are living it. But this is the one Shabbat every year when we stop, look back, draw strength and comfort from the open arms of our congregation across time and space. Back to Mookie and that Neil Armstrong story. Yes, Neil Armstrong, not a Jew, but an amazing religious man who was, of course, the first astronaut to walk on the moon. While touring the original temple in Jerusalem, where many of you have been, by the Western Wall, Neil Armstrong said to his guide, "This is the greatest moment of my life." Greatest moment? Excuse me, Mr. Armstrong, says Mookie, but I was in the bathtub as a little kid with a rubber ducky when my mom yelled from the living room, "Oh my God, Mookie, there's a man walking on the moon." "And you're the guy," Mookie says to Neil Armstrong. "How can you say this is the greatest moment in your life?" He went on, Mookie says, "My favorite band from Athens, Georgia is REM, and they went on to write a song called Man on the Moon about you. How can you say this is the greatest moment of your life just by the Western Wall at the temple in Jerusalem?" "Because," Mr. Armstrong replied, "while you are correct that I made history, there is something even greater than me making history." "What is that?" Mookie and the guide asked. "Touching history." And we're touching history, standing in the same place where the original temple stood 2,000 years ago. My friends, the story of American Judaism, after the story of Israel, I believe is arguably the greatest Jewish story in human history. And as we move from Passover to Mount Sinai and receive the Torah on Shavuot, on this 166th anniversary, it's as good a Shabbat as any to appreciate, realize, and value how we are touching history too. I shared with my confirmation 10th grade class that their ceremony, which confirms them as young adult Jews, ending their sophomore year of high school and carrying on the gift of Judaism in the future, that ceremony began in this temple in 1863 in the middle of a war. Not World War II, not Vietnam, not even World War I, but in the middle of the Civil War. Judaism is not only about believing and behaving, it's also about belonging. And at Temple, we are all, each of us, part of something so much larger than any one of us. In a congregation like this one, our link to history is very real. Even our next holiday, Shavuot, is linked to the original name of this congregation, Children of Israel. Going back to Sinai. Sinai, the scene of the event which transformed our ancestors from a group of ex-slaves into a people committed to ethics and decency and doing the right thing. Sinai, the place where our ancestors experienced something so sacred and profound that it molded their character and still shapes their destiny. Sinai, the site where God gave us what has justifiably been called our magnificent obsession, the Torah, inspiring an entire body of Jewish literature and music to this day. Do you know the Torah states that the children of Israel arrived at the foot of Mount Sinai in the third month? By Yom Hazeh, on this day, the Torah states, they came to Mount Sinai. And many sages from Rashi to others note that there's something wrong with what's written in that scroll. When we speak of something that happened in the past, we don't say on this day, we say on that day, once upon a time. Why does the Torah speak of the giving of the Torah, which happened nearly 4,000 years ago, in the present tense? The answer is tonight. The answer is that the words of the Torah and Judaism in general must always be received and felt as though they were being given to you today. Yes, it happened once upon a time in a certain place, but the Jewish way to live, the principles that ground us, the way we heal and hope must happen by Yom Hazeh today. In every generation, each one of us who links him or herself to the history and destiny of the Jewish people is like a new letter in the never-ending story of Temple Israel, the Torah of the Jewish people. No date is given in the Bible for receiving the Torah. No date. It's given whenever we not only receive it, but renew it and live its teachings of kindness, compassion, justice, equality, peace, shalom, 166 years later in Memphis, Tennessee. That way the Torah doesn't remain in the ark. We can all become living Torahs, improve the lives of others and our own lives through its teaching from generation to generation. L'dor vador, and let us say, Amen.